Safe. Smooth.
Didn't even move.
Oh, here we go then. How's it going?
No,
Please, mate. Thank you very much. How are you? All news. All news. In this case, it's just over its event. Copy all of your nose, man. Covered in food. Thank you, mate. Thanks, mate.
Charles.
Hayden, do you know if we can do the backdrop yet?
Yeah. Let's send it up.
Bill?
Hold the box down. Sorry, power was 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes, that's right, mate. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, mate. To be honest, though, man, if you want, we could always just do just one down this side for these two.
That might be handy.
Yeah, and then kind of frees up that space because we only need one for the keyboard, and then I just have an extension for some drum stuff.
Am I live?
Yeah.
Am I on Twitch?
No.
Oh.
You want to do a shot?
Take you somebody. Oh. I got it.
Shot the ball down. What do you need? I need a pickle, I need a drill bit,
And the VB and the V7.
Trying to find a case that's like the normal.
Yeah. Oh God.
Lovely. Thank you.
Super duper.
Everywhere now.
Good work.
then.
Yeah, and is that one there for the back behind and the one?
Do you think it's in here? There it is. Head, mate. Right there. Some of that.
Big lure.
Remember that, I remember after that. That's a long way in Wales.
It's the banter, look. All the Elliot, right?
What else it is? Wrong. Good one. Don't say anything, Ash is filming.
Careful now. By us.
I'm not editing it either. It's just raw.
5 hours.
Yeah, just going up raw like.
Is that a whole loading can or what
Oh. Yeah.
Beep, 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 beep.
Beep! I'm just going to use that as the whole thing now. No, there's a swear.
That's just the audio.
Yeah, that's just the swear audio.
That's the swear.
This is what I made earlier.
Yeah, man, those 3 cases there are all good to go. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you.
I just had a. There it is.
Yeah, they don't die. Whereas at J4, it's about the same money and they break all the time.
I had a radio deal for years. I kept on sending them.
The metal house is not great, right? The metal house is not the press the button.
I'll cut that, don't worry.
Yeah, no, I had a deal with them for years and just kept on sending them.
See ya. Thanks,
By the end
mate.
of the tour, you'd be
Yeah, no, but me Butterfingers like.
So VSS is like goes round, stage, it goes over, oh yeah. The plus side of Leeds is it's a little bit smaller because we've got all the all the other arenas, so we cut a few bits out. It doesn't necessarily have to be quick. Yeah. It's a bit of a nice bit.
It's like comedians, it's usually just a fucking floor.
Mindless general public like him.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean that drink.
Oh, halfway.
Yeah.
Oh no, this is not that way. I've heard about that drink, but I've not seen it.
I only encountered it recently.
I have not seen it.
Someone's, instead of them doing it, yeah. It's like,
So now you can't. Now it's more difficult.
well, then obviously you've got to extend the lines out to the lights.
21.
No, we should take it home and stitch a new bit.
Yeah, they're in the bay. I know. I was gunning. Oh well, that one's gone forever.
That's it. It's not up here.
Yeah, just in my own little world, mate. Changing all my bits for you, mate. Got these new washers. I think I showed you them before. These new washers. Couple lug sleeves, screw sleeves instead of the standard ones.
It's a ball.
Come have a look. Cleaned up the rim as well because they're a bit gluey. So I've gone over the whole thing. So they're just, all they do is like, they're actually a bit thinner, but they just go over that way instead. Instead of the standard, just that. But yeah, I've put them on, and all your other ones I've kept in a little baggie, so you'll have. I'm not going to run away with them. But I've also cleaned these hoops because they're a bit sticky. There's loads of stuff all over them.
The residue from the packing. We're doing a full weekend.
Full thing, mate. 21. Everything's going to have 21.3 on it. That'll be the date that they got changed. So we know then, you know exactly how long ago they were changed. Yep.
We get to America in 30 days.
That's mad. That's mad.
Just rock and roll lifestyle. Fucking give it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got it's kind of got like real like hardcore like punky tendencies to it, which I like. It's nice.
You're going to end me for asking, but I looked at pre-sale from mid-Feb. Was it like 680 something? 700. Oh. So, what? 700? Isn't they're calling it sold out at 700?
No, as in because you can cap it for 700.
Oh, okay, cool.
So that's what we've done. That's that way you get overages.
Okay, so it's. Oh, nice. Fuck it. So it's technically sold out for. Perfect. Trigger system, baby.
Lucky.
Who's playing it? Hey? Who's playing it?
Ah, God! Jesus. Oh, yeah, go on. Ham it. Harder. Me up. Oh. Come on. Oh, I love my masseuse at home. Steel.
God.
Oh, that's just really can't use any of this.
I can't uncut me. Look at it.
It's a very old kit anyway, because
Honestly, I haven't got any cleaning stuff, so I can't.
it's got really cool stories on it though. So Nolly Ball, he's got 222 by 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. It's one of the best tricks I've ever played.
How do you feel?
It's nice, but
Well,
actually,
that's where I can get to, but that's what it is now.
yeah, that's great. Did you gym today, Phil?
He's got a broken leg, like.
I took the doctor tomorrow. You keep trimming. You're really bad.
There's rig.
Yeah, here we go.
Drop trout. Yeah. Spray. I've got spray.
Oh yeah, anything.
I saw Ian's got some side.
That'll do. Yeah, that side's not as bad. Oh.
Medicines are fun. I'm supposed to rest it. I'll be in trouble.
Well, yeah, your foot, his knee. Fucking hell.
I definitely.
I bring the average median age down by about 40 years. Yeah, my feet kill every day. Every day I get into bed, I'm like, God, thank God I'm not wearing my docks anymore. Honestly, man, wearing docks all day kills you. You're not a soldier, man. You're a musician. You're an artiste. Yeah, but you don't need to look the part where no one can see your feet.
Your feet, yeah.
You can wear some Nikes for God's sake.
I want to get some like black New Balance. Like,
Any shoes. Any shoes.
Yeah.
Are we going to add those ambience in today? Yeah.
I don't know, can you shut up? Yeah, that's a legend, love him.
that face.
Tom has to be like something that's told say.
Gotta love this industry, don't you? Gotta love it. I love it. Everyone is really confident. Anyone need anything? Water?
I could do with a water, mate. I'll take a water, thank you very much. Do you want a... Nah.
I don't know why I was struggling so much.
I know, I was thinking that yesterday when I was like, even today, like, you come up to the drum riser and they go just in front of it, so.
Fuck it.
Yeah,
Leave it where it's two.
Yeah, I'll see how they feel about it today. I'll be like, we're right to just leave our stuff instead of moving it 'cause you got your big backdrop. Yeah.
You're good for that 9, yeah?
For the?
Right, good to get him gone.
Yeah, man, yeah. Yeah, go for it, mate. Thank you very much. There we are. Let's sit in there for a bit like that now. And then I'll retune it a little bit. That way it's had a bit of time to sit in the tuning. A bit of a higher tuning range. And we can get it tuned behind the kit. Makes it feel just a little bit easier then, is it? See how it feels in the room. Lovely. was way too high for what they would usually do. But I don't hate it. Don't hate it. Oh yeah, see this one's actually nice and this one's not sticky because there's a little box in the case. So this one's actually kind of nice. This one's a little spruce, to be honest, that's all. A little bit more. Bit of a mishmash here with the UV2 on top. Another one. Yeah, look at this. He probably wouldn't say no, would he?
Are we going to add those ambience in today? Yeah.
Oh, you're doing a fucking GoPro session. Dean, pop, your drumsticks. Pop, you're Tom Brady. Go on. Touch this.
All right.
Jamie, get that up.
Hey Jamie, pull this up. Hey Jamie. Oh, this is a G1. No, not that. This head is different, thinner. I don't like that. I don't like that a lot. I don't like that a lot. I don't like that at all. Oh, bollocks. I know I've made a big mess. Yeah, 2 secs. Yeah, 1 sec. Whoop. Oh, fucking all of them apparently. Apparently.
Right.
Yeah, it's over here, boys. Come on, just round here.
Oh God.
That's it.
Only one. It's and there's 9 legs between them.
That's it. Are we gonna? William and Co. And Co.
And Co.
Yeah.
I am Co.
Namco.
Yeah.
This is nice, isn't it? How's Soundcheck? Did you get up at 7 in the morning and do all the things that the AI told us to do?
No. Oh no. No, I didn't.
I didn't do mine either.
But I am preparing the drum kit like the AI told me to. But I'm doing it at a significantly later time than the AI told me to do it. Also, it's technically by the AI standard, we should be sound checking in 10 minutes. So I hope you're all ready.
You ever played here before? Yeah?
No, never. We did the stylus. I feel like you must have done the stylus before, Will.
Can you just come
We're
up
dressing
here,
rooms. Well, it's up the stairs, isn't it?
Alright.
So again.
The dressing rooms up the stairs.
No, they're like next door to the stage.
Yeah, but they're upstairs, aren't they?
No, it's like here, and the dressing room is like there, but you can only get there from the stage.
What's that?
In the in stylus.
You were really sick.
Stylus, I was there on that day. Oh yeah. I was told to not pick up the lead microphone because I might get norovirus.
Oh, yeah.
That was never for 12 hours.
Oh, shit.
I did not get norovirus. I love the holiday.
Oh, good.
You were like isolating yourself.
Yeah, I thought so. Billy?
Yeah. Alright, that was a Newcastle. Just push that a little bit out of the way.
Have you ever seen my trick mic stand? You hit the ball and
Oh, that's cool. You could do that.
I tried to do it before 2 times.
No. I think you would be fine.
I was just saying, it's so much nicer when there's carpet on the floor of a stage.
Yeah. It feels nice on the feet.
It's like to fall over.
Yeah.
I'll say that now and I'll
Even though you're actually probably more likely to fall over.
Oh god, so much better. Thank you. I think that's quite a big thing for me, the whole spine thing. It's an enemy of mine for
An enemy, if you will.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I get tangled up and I fall over at my big fan.
Oh, right. Something with your wrap here. I touch your wrap and then touch my wrap. I'm getting it. If I touch them without touching the wrap, I'm not getting it.
That's weird. Yep, you hit the nail on the head there.
Can we... How we go wrapped?
Yes, okay, fine. Everything's on the same jelly, right? Like,
Yeah.
stage power's on the jelly.
Let him know because he'll lose his... I just need to unplug your rack for a minute to fault find something, right? Do you want me to wait a sec or...
I'll use it today real quick.
Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, the 16 wall, they're also on the jelly.
All the audio parts of it coming out the same ones. Oh, there we are. Never mind.
Hans Zimmer is here. Hans Zimmer in the house.
Yeah, so now it's fine. So Harry, what's that? Power from the okay. So what's that tell us? Yeah.
That's what.
This is missing an earth.
Well, what I'd like to do is just always do a power out.
Yeah, I'll put this back in.
Yeah, it's fine. I want to see if there's missing anything there. And it seems like you're
Useful, isn't it?
oh, yeah. That's probably that full way. Then we'll check your power on your desk. Yeah, check that for me. See what that tells you.
That's 2 reels. That's always plug in something on here.
That hallway is not hallway there. That hallway power is what's powering their rack. Either that 16 cable. What I was going to do is I'm going to get a power box here. Just going to get this. Just get that one. So plug that into there. I'll need the 16. I was going to test the cable as well. Because I think it's our cable or our hallways. So you can get that 16 for it.
This is...
No, it's our strip. This is our 16. The one that you gave us, they wanted 16 to plug in. This is their hallway. Is it? Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
I put it in.
Oh, right, I never even knew that.
And that's right. Pop that in there.
I literally
Oh yeah, I think it's fine. I imagine it's always not that much. But it could also be 16.
okay, right. So, do this. I will power off the back of my rack. So we'll keep this in the front, okay?
Benny, give me 2 seconds. I'm just going to get the box of that you're going to give me this.
Yes.
Yeah, go on. Oh, can you actually give 10 to Tom for me? I owe Tom 10. Thank you. Tom.
I didn't realise we had.
So I'll fix that now. And do you want to be the tester again?
Oh yeah.
Be the electricity tester. Oh, back. We get death.
That's it.
Okay, so now I can carry on getting
Good
you
spot,
on.
by the way.
Well, if I plugged these in the right way around earlier, if I'd not made an error,
You wouldn't do it, yeah.
yeah, so sometimes mistakes are good.
Okay, now that's all done. Yeah? Yeah, good, you alright? On bike.
So I can send you the stage so that if you want to.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, if you tap the post button, yeah. That works, yeah. That's not technically obvious.
First. Just up on the case, mate. Yeah.
He's great. Is that what you're doing today?
Basically, yeah.
Do you want me to stop talking?
No?
You're using the subtitles?
Yeah. And then in the subtitles, I'm going to say this is the part where Jake came over and started questioning me, interrogating me, and annoying me.
I hated it, and it was really annoying. And I'm the drum tech.
Sweet. Thank you for doing that.
Well, good.
Appreciate it.
Honestly, the only reason I've got this on is because you were like, can we change heads tomorrow? And I was like, yep.
Perfect day.
Full kit change.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Nice venue. Big venue, big stage. Good band as well, I hope. See you in a bit. Wow. What? I don't understand. That's right. Oh, fuck's sake. Fucking idiot. Well, all I can do now is hope he doesn't scream at me. Oh, what an idiot, like. Yeah, that is right. That's the fucking position, but get it out. Whoa. Yeah, go for Ash.
How are we looking on stage, Brad?
Just got to finish micing the kit, mate, lining it up. So probably 30 minutes tops, closer to 20 minutes.
Lovely, thanks, dude.
Yeah, I'm TM, bud. You remember our chat last night? I'll tell him now. Oh, Bill, who are you? Who are you, bud?
Put on the corner of the riser
Or the thing? Oh, no, I'll do it on the side. I just needed to, I took it off because the rug was like fucking Fast and Furious fucking Tokyo Drift it was.
Tokyo Drift. Hopefully not. Put the switch on the generator and
I'm gonna give these a wipe down after Soundcheck, just because they're fucking muling now.
Say that again, bud? Do you want to send local crew home? Yeah, I'm good for that unless anyone else needs them.
stick hands, you can go home.
You wouldn't tell God to turn his radio down, would you? Is that the level that I want it now? Oh, fucking hell. Shit me up, have you? I was like, ah! Come in! Ah, it's gonna fall! It's gonna fall!
Poster? Fucking poster? Pasta last night.
Oh, you got a pasta dish?
The spicy one still. Spicy one still, brother.
Still. Your back hurts. We old now.
Man of many talents, man.
Send Tommy Talent.
Build a mark. Build a house.
Tommy Talent it is. Nothing.
You can't what, sorry?
Can't you?
Can't hear.
Can't do it, sorry, Welsh.
Yeah, I just remember, yeah.
Myself, man, this fucking floor tom, I put the logo in the wrong place.
Don't ever hit that drum ever again.
Alright, see you later. No, it's bang on. And I've already put the RockLocks on, so it's it's already just like God intended. Oh, fucking brilliant. Don't worry, I go get it. He's as cold as ice. Freezing. There it is, behind me, don't worry, I found it. I found it. Billy's. Oh, Ian's. Yeah, didn't you say 22 yesterday? What's that, brother? Oh, you fuck. New, are we? Oh, for fuck's sake. Ew.
got things code in this set that you can remember that you're like, right, I can literally go through that now. So, first, use that as, that's the heaviest,
Can you hear me in the ears, Bill?
Yep.
Just let me know when you're done, mate. I just want to do some, I've changed all the heads, I just need to do some tuning on the drums, but I don't want to interrupt you.
I'll be less than a minute. That one in front.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, mate. I just want to grab my bag. Whoa, dear. Thank you, mate. No worries. Oh, fucking baggers. Where's the tongue? Ugh. Oh. My teenage sacrifice. Tom, I know this is the least favourite drum to hit. I just want to hit the snare just to make sure I'm not hitting any more of these gates. Just don't want to be hitting them on the toms. Oh yeah. Just want to see which one it is.
toms, and then one by one.
Nah, see, it's still there.
Still there. It won't be that because it'll be panned in my ear.
Yeah, I know, that's muted, but that's setting it off. I know what it is. It's the kick. I don't know what that means. I don't know how to do that.
Is the key on?
No, it's off right now. You need to push the filter button. So you need to press it. That's it.
Do that. Try that. I'm just gonna try that on the floor top.
Drop that to the snare. Oh, that's it. Still there a little bit. When there's like pure volume, it's a lot there when that's going. Sorry about that. Thanks for bearing with.
That's all right. I'm going to play on the drums now.
Go on, then.
Oh, Ian.
No.
Ian.
Ian. Ah, right.
Trip
Come on,
hazard.
come on. You need to go there, right? You have to go this way.
Okay.
All right?
Trip hazard.
Look me in the eyes. Look at me. Looks banging, sounds banging, and it shouldn't go out of tune. Now we've got some real locks on there.
My brother.
Oh, Nui! Ah! Always fine.
The only way I can describe it is it was very bright last night. Like the overall mix was really bright and it was kind of nice and clean and crispy. Today's just like, it's still good, just everything's a bit flat.
Yeah.
It's not got a lot of like, I'm having to really work.
Yeah, I can hear that as well. Like I'm kind of hearing it, and I'm trying to like just adjust little things. So I'm like, oh, I can kind of hear it a bit more now. Like my pack's like full, and I'm like very much like, oh, I'm still having to push for some high end, like that the thing that you're talking about, like the crispy like brightness of everything.
Like the bite almost. Yeah.
But I think when maybe a lot of that's being like bouncing around, so maybe when there's people, it might focus. You might get a bit more clarity and focus when it's like there's actually people here. That's kind of what I'm hoping anyway.
That's cool.
But yeah, it is weird. It does sound weird.
Hello.
Is it UK?
Hmm?
She said UK.
Yeah. I said UK, like UK tour. I was like, yeah, we're on a UK tour now. Oh, there's stage towels by here.
It's lovely.
That's what I was looking for earlier. Need a few, Em.
I need a 6 in total, but
The vibes are 11 out of 10 in here, mate. They're immaculate. You've got it. You've got this set up, fine-tuned to an art.
Thank you so much.
Fifth time. Right. It's okay, mate. You're right. I know that guy. Huh?
They're gonna want that. Sean puts it on his.
Thought it was left on from earlier. I thought it was here's one I made earlier.
No, I just changed the marriage of the route, so I was waiting for Will to take them back.
Very much.
pizza.
I don't know. Kind of bored now. Haven't got anything else to do. They'll be done in like 9 minutes. They always get done super early. They're running on time, so there's not really much else to. Yeah, they're good boys.
It's be long editing all that, eh?
Huh?
It's gonna be long editing all that, eh?
Yeah. For sake. You made it all mucky now, huh?
That's me, lad.
Him putting his bloody mouth all over the camera like. I said, does that mean where you at? I'm upstairs.
Where you at?
Where you at?
So I kept interrupting you before.
That's right.
You're not ready yet.
No, I'm sorry. No, I went to see Nort with Chaz.
You're cutting it very fine.
I know. I'll be quick.
No apologies. I was in business mode.
No, I just came in. I know what it's like when someone comes in and you're.
The worst thing is I didn't talk to my missus about
I mean, it was.
stuff about work shit.
Oh really?
Way loud.
Yeah, she works me.
Yeah,
so
of course. Yeah.
she's just like, right, you need to do this, you need to pay these people. I'm like, no.
Showtime.
Hello there, sir. Pav, you're taking a shit.
Jake Fagardi with the pre-show poopies. Going to.
Hello! And welcome to the vlog!
Shut up. What do you mean, welcome? Currently 5 hours in. Yeah. Again. And then he did it again.
Hi.
You okay?
Yeah, how are you?
Thanks so long. I really put a set list in your front of house. Right then.
Sound out of time. What? Like the drum machine just did a drum fill, and it didn't come back in on the one.
Oh. I was like, metric modulation, bro. Come on. Madagascar.
It didn't sound good though.
Yeah, they got Madagascar to do the drum machine.
Madagascar.
Yeah, yeah. That set list specifically is for Will, because I've signed it.
that, wasn't it? He did. You should have seen this one. Perfect teeth as well. It's crazy. Yeah. Shit. Bill, I'm just going to upstairs and come back to the and go for it. Okay. Starshade.
What time is it, Ash?
Bigger things are later on.
Lipstick mark.
Yeah, it does look
What's it? You're fucking fed now, are we?
Okay. Yeah, I'm
Half. No. That's the shower. There he is.
Little wet end.
That's, don't touch me then. 15 mins.
Hey!
Don't have my torch.
all good, man. I think I'm always gonna pull one out. I can't do them both in. It stresses me out. Thank you.
Sorry.
Very weird mix tonight. It's very all like it's weird as fuck. Like levels are just. Hannah's so hot in my ears.
Hannah,
like both vocal and keys.
Okay. Do you want me to bring the keys down?
Honestly, mate, I'm at the moment. I'm at the moment where I'm like acclimatized to it, and I'm like cool. And honestly, with our set as well, it's like some songs are really full, some songs are like dead quiet, or they have parts which are really full and then goes down and drops down to like drums and bass. Yeah. So just honestly, for today it's fine. I like.
I've been having when I bring my pack down, I think I'm closer to your mix because like the click and snare and kick are all in the front, and then occasionally I'll be like, oh yeah, that's quite hot, and then
the one thing I am noticing is the rack tom feels like it's disappearing when I hit it, and I'm sat there like, did I just miss that hit? And then I've gone around again, I've been like, no, I haven't, and it's like for some reason it's like, gap, boom, gap, boom, and it's like. What's going on? Okay. Like, yeah. I don't know what's going on there.
I'll turn up a bit and see if
butt kicker was playing up as well, but at the beginning. But I think I've got a feeling something's not right with that thing.
Oh really?
Like, yeah, I've got to send it for a service, but there's like, just now and again, it runs really hot, and then it's like.
You turn it. Do you find it's quite powerful, and you turn it down, and there's just nothing?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought that because like that happened in Soundcheck, and then or like it'll be super hot when I take it off stage. Yeah. Well, not sorry, when I put it straight up after the show before in the soundcheck, I'll be like, oh, that's fucking blasting. Yeah. And then I turn it down and it's just immediately like.
It moves a lot in transit.
Yeah.
Like it for some reason, like, which I don't know how they've not picked up on that. Let's go good though. Harv, you're doing a fucking stellar job. We'll see you at part 2. Let's go.
just in front of the drum riser if you can, mate. That'd be amazing. Thank you. Fucking good question.
Just another gig.
I think it's a Lincoln.
Oh, in fact, I think it's a Monster, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, please, mate. If you don't mind unplugging all of the drum mics for me, just leaving the mics on the drums though, and the and also the triggers as well, please, mate. Just behind you, mate. Thank you, bud.
Lorry panicking Skywalker. As soon as clearly Will not kicked his mic. Like,
those are drum ones, mate, just by the riser. They can go on the side, mate, if you like.
He Will clearly kicked the XLR out of the box down there.
Yeah.
So it's doing down below that first bit. So he comes in and says, I can't win a match. I was like, hold on. The problem up. I was like, that's not the problem.
Daddy, chill.
Anakin Skywalker.
Daddy, chill. And then just the triggers.
Front XLRs in.
Yes, please, mate. Yeah.
Running up that and I'm running up there.
That's him.
Screen, I'll give you anything.
Go on then, give us some light.
Oh, you Hayden. That's one in it already, motherfucker.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Some of your audio stuff's going to come off the front of the ramp, isn't it?
Yes, please, yeah.
fucking thing, like. Can I have that mic box, please, mate? Yeah, the one underneath your desk.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking hell, like. Any loud going?
Any loud going?
Fucking prick.
Everything but the keyboard, is it?
That's him.
Go on then, I'll have a quick hammer this time.
Yeah.
Any Tom Pike mic boxes going? Sorry. Nah, yeah, go on. Nah, we've got loads, we've got some people, we'll be alright. Just get them outside for now. I'd rather everything just be outside. Start popping drums in these cases for me, mate. Is that all right?
Of course, mate.
That'd be bang on, thank you. Is that the one that?
The bigger one?
Yep.
Hey?
Snare.
Oh, it goes in that grey trunk over there, mate.
Microphone off it.
Say again. Oh yeah, that clip, mate. I'll take that. Thank you, mate.
He's absolutely throbbing.
This is the fourth time.
Any charge or?
Burnt through two, had to recharge them. Watched a bit of TV, and now I'm already on the second one.
Any charge or?
Any batteries going? Right. And then before that goes back in, I need to put the pedals in.
Okay.
So if you don't mind zipping the case up for me, mate. And then if you can, do you have any electrical tape on you?
I don't actually, no, I can grab some.
It's not black, is it? No, it's blue, that's great. You can just start coiling up this loom for me, mate.
Yeah,
That'd be great. It's always a fucking
This one here.
hell of a job. Yeah, there's a few bits to it. There's also this like slightly smaller one here. If you can keep that one separate, but this big one needs to go all together, mate. Thank you very much. Thanks, mate. This goes in the mic stand box.
How the monitors shooting drumsticks?
Oh, mate.
Hey, you got a job.
Really? How come?
To be fair, I think Tom will agree with you as well.
Yeah.
All Soundcheck is complaining. Concrete walls, isn't it?
I'm pretty used to concrete walls. I just feel like no matter what I do.
Yep, there we go, and there we go. Lovely, mate, thank you very much.
No. It was just like when I told you that, it was actually both purpose of like stage time.
I'll be banging, mate, yeah. To be honest, if you wanna, I've got some. Say again?
Kept one out there for a cab.
Yep. Go on then.
Paula said the exact same thing.
And security as well.
Fighting security?
Yeah.
Why?
Apparently they wouldn't let her in the front of the house or something. She is a woman, and therefore she could not possibly be working in the live music industry, said the male security guard.
Is that what you actually said?
No.
This house. You've done some more?
No. Yeah, it was James Hill then. That's crazy that you weren't there for Linky. This one.
Yeah. Well, was it?
I apologise.
No, that's okay. No, it's good. Bill, you see that cab cover? Checks a lot, mate.
You done with all these cases?
Yeah, these three are done, Bill, yeah?
Yeah, and the guitar.
And you can guide this down the ramp with me, mate.
Of course, mate, yeah.
Okay. Onto that one. Let's do the mic case. We could probably do all three then as well. There we go. A Lovely, mate. Can I lend you guys to help me start getting stuff in the trailer? That'd be amazing. Thank you, mate. This one. And how'd you feel about doing that big coloured one there? Oh, it's been raining, is it?
Do I just keep running it out for you?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks very much. The front of house on top?
Yeah. Different again. Said the court goes, man.
Yeah, I know, but your stage box goes on top of the thing, doesn't it? That's how we were doing it. This one?
Yeah.
Go round. No, go round. Hold this in place.
1,
2,
3. And little tiny.
No, do these two first. Little push top, mate. That's him.
Little tellies on top.
Yeah, that can go on top. Silver briefcase behind you. SE mic box. What else? Soft one. Both. Are the drums out here, mate?
I'll go get them now.
Thank you, mate. But all of them, please, mate. As many drums as you can.
Slow on the radio. There. The jacket and merch.
Thank you, mate. Is the 18 floor tom out here? What goes against this case for the cabs?
Little drum.
8. I can go right at the back. This side. Do you want a hand? Against the wall? Yeah. Yep. I'll heat it up with him. Any more pellies?
Yeah.
That was stacked up quite high.
What? Oh no, there's a bar there.
Is it guitar or something?
Maybe like that. Do it.
Yeah. On top or on the floor?
Whatever.
I kind of don't want to go on the top.
Oh, you bitch. Wheel and gun here.
Go on.
How was I got better? How have we got more room?
With more merch.
Where's the bar going?
Across the bottom. Yeah, capture every moment.
Pav! It's a good chip! Pav! Oh, Pav! Pav! Zach Pinkin is here! Oh! Alright, everybody! This ain't a fucking social club. Round it up and get the hell out of here!
Are you showering?
No, Will's in that kind of later, pretty much enough time.
Are you showering?
Well, it depends. It depends, doesn't it, mate?
And yeah, we get charged if we go over midnight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why I'm so fucking. That's why I'm kicking off.
Oh.
But I already asked, I was like, can we please just get a bit of time so we can get some shower, like, we can get shower. She's like, so we have to pay.
Bang in. That was the fastest pack down of tour as well. And this is the thanks we get, Billy. That's the thanks you're going to give us.
Not on my watch. Hey, mister!
Come run! So they can't run!
Well, I don't think we're all showering unless we just go in together.
Right, Will,
We just all gotta be ready as soon as Will gets out.
I don't know if I'd rather be a bit smelly and go and have a decent shit now and just have a shower tomorrow.
Do you?
He's out.
Is he?
You out? He's out.
Quick!
Quick!
Hey, you're not allowed to watch this. Okay, shoes. My hair probably looks awful as well. Torch, phone, in-ears, jacket. Ah, the t-shirt. I've got my t-shirt. Fuck.
Self, big up yourself, big up yourself.
Oh, my food. Getting out, are we?
I think that those doors might be locked.
Oh, at the front, is it?
Good.
Slopan. Godspeed, young Haz. Stuck in bien now. And all this hand holding, it's so nice.
Pav, you're going to bed.
Pav, no I'm not.
Pav, you're staying up with the boys, having a couple of brewskis.
I'm gonna go dump all my wet clothes on my dry bed, so when I get into bed, my bed is wet.
Wonderful.
In fact, I'm gonna do the opposite. Put it on Will's bed. Dump station alpha. Dump everything in the bed. He's none the wiser. Oh, all of my tape. There we go. And last but not least, my fucking nice drinks. It's time to get some food.
Yeah. But they always have. You got 2 £5 notes, my friend.
I've got 10.
Shit.
I do actually.
Oh, I'm gonna get some. Wait. Hey, Marlon. That's for you, brother.
That's for me, buddy.
Hey, Hayden, hey.
Brother.
Pav, you're Harry from the Haunted Matters. None of this standing.
Just keep doing what you're doing. You.
Yeah, am I putting this in the bag?
It's great, mate. Thank you for that.
Like, subscribe, and comment, and donate to the Patreon.
What?
Love you. God bless.
I'll sign off for that if you like.
George, please.
No.
I'll leave it down by there.
Deal.
God fucking bless.